Do the roll call in reverse order. Jack Scarborough, Bonnie Sears, Bridget Powers, myself, Rebecca Hansen, Bill Bolton, Chris Buckley, Marianne Barnsley, and Brian Murphy. We will next move on to a review of the June 21st meeting minutes. I know there's some comments. I see some red pen on on the minutes to my left. So are there any comments, corrections, etc. for the meeting minutes?
Well, in number 2, it says the previous applicant, but that really was the previous, it wasn't an applicant, it was a previous owner or
operator.
Operator. I wasn't sure about number 3, Chris. Is that how that happened?
I think so, because I read it and didn't think, stated the abutter business brought up concern, his opinion was that this venue have, that's accurate. Why did you think it?
No, I just had a question mark there, which I can't remember the
Oh,
reason
okay.
for. And again, my eyes, I'm not sure if my eyes did light up, but anyway.
Oh, you know what, maybe why you have a question there, there's a pronoun referent. His refers to me, but it's unclear whether it refers to the abutting business owner. Could that be it?
Maybe.
Yeah. So maybe she should put Chris's opinion was that this venue.
Yeah, did your eyes light up?
I don't think they did. My eyes would light up more.
But would you know?
Baked good.
Would you have known, though?
S apostrophe.
That's an excellent question.
I'm sure you were valid.
Chris's would be S apostrophe S.
There is another S.
According to, who are those guys? Strunk and...
Yeah,
Strunk and White.
Yeah, you always put an apostrophe S, even if it word ends in an S.
You
Yeah.
just don't say it?
What's that?
You just don't say it?
You don't say it, right.
Place it.
Otherwise, that
Well,
means
Chris's.
cheese, like molten. Makes sense in my mind. Looking forward to seeing how that's reflected. That's what I just said.
On page 3, Jack said that the zoning board will have more business in the future. I think you meant the planning board, right?
No, we were talking
said
about
the zoning
like
board.
zoning,
Like committee reports at the
Right.
time?
yes.
I have under the third bullet, under unfinished and other business on the third page, I believe I said that the Conservation Commission is rerouting, or I asked if so I guess that works, that you agreed after I asked, so never mind. Oh boy, this is gonna be an interesting meeting, sorry guys. And just there's some discrepancies between bullets and numbers, and it goes from bullets to numbers to different
Oh, okay.
not a huge content's there, but yeah. Anything else?
Chris did make a motion to adjourn.
I do remember that. Speaking of motions,
To accept.
Second?
all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 I abstain.
Continuing work on the master plan. First, I'd just like to say thank you, Bill, for the magic you've worked with this.
Piece of cake.
Does look like you changed the font. I think right now we just have some small tweaks to do. It is printing a little funny with the, so,
Why is that? Because it was perfect in
When
the
you look at it.
online, yeah. And
did you print it from the Word document or from the PDF?
I printed from the Word doc.
Okay.
I bet you the PDF would be fine.
PDF, that's what I looked at, and the PDF was fine, so,
Okay.
yeah, so I think,
Edits making in the document and then just save it as a PDF and then print it from there.
yep. So the one thing that I know we need to change it so it says the Plymouth Master Plan 2018 in the header. I'm afraid might have to do that on every single page. I don't know if you know.
Okay, yeah.
Because I know that's was part of the problem in,
Oh, okay.
in design.
And if you go to chapter 1, vision, first paragraph, we've got a low hyphencation.
A what?
We've got low hyphencation.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
That's minor.
Yep. And I think that was part of the issue. I think that was a manual hyphenation or coming from the InDesign document. All right. So what do we think? It would be helpful to have a couple people comb through the document. I think just getting some consistency in bullets and the way they're shaped and stuff would be good. Oh, this should be the Allwell North. Oh, that's not the Allwell North.
It ain't even Plymouth.
Right.
Oh, that's a good
That's
point.
true.
Yeah, so we need a
Very
new
good
picture
point.
here.
I take umbrage at that.
Yep.
Let them get their own damn.
Maybe we can put the picture of the town hall that,
Right, Bonnie?
did that get scanned and put in the pictures that Bonnie took? Jack, you were gonna scan those?
I did and sent them all to you.
I did not get an email with those in them unless they were,
Okay, well, I've got them.
okay, yeah. Yeah, so we should definitely take that out since it's not Plymouth. Thank you, Bill. All right, so any suggestions on how best to, do we want to, I mean, I feel like we need to actually read through this before we can move on, just get the details and then maybe some of the formatting inconsistencies.
So like Rebecca, on that same page, I just happen to be, with the all well thing, on the last bullet point, second to last sentence, like that consideration, is that because this was printed from Word, or would that be in the PDF too?
Yes, that would be. I think that is probably from it getting imported from a PDF into Word, that it read them as separate words because they're on different lines. So, yeah.
Are we just calling out notice things here?
I feel like that's not super efficient.
Yep.
It might be something fine. I mean, I think at this point, we maybe need to all just take them home and read through it carefully, or we can sit here for the next, I mean, it's pretty nice in here, hour and a half and read through this. Oh, this looks good, though.
Are we gonna have page numbers?
There are,
Yeah,
there's
Oh, where are they?
They're on the,
bottom right. They just didn't-
Oh,
Can't see 'em.
oh,
You see it, it's on the
Yep.
green like.
Yeah, so we'll have to adjust those, and some of this might
Yeah,
be,
they
Right,
drop
right.
out at page 23. And then come
and then they
back
pick up
in.
again.
48.
Yes, okay, so. Page numbers. What's,
Where are those?
the page numbers are actually there, though.
right, oh, they are on the
Yeah,
other pages, they're
on-
just,
in the Word document and PDF. You know, In fact, I took great pains to get the page number at the same spot, pretty much,
okay.
because it was kind of, it varied.
So the, in
Is
this
it a
copy, seem
footer
to
or
stop
is-
at 14.
Yeah, it was a footer, so like on page 20, you have it about right, and
14
then
is
it's
done.
kind of like.
Yeah,
So we need to figure out how to get
Yeah,
them,
they
and
have
I'm happy to
stopped.
start taking a crack at this now, and put a lot of work into it, so I can,
Is that, so that would be the page number if it
I don't see any here.
printed out correctly? Because I don't have it on any of the, well, I saw
Yeah,
it somewhere.
Page 20, you got, of course, you don't know
They
page
stop
20
at
until you
page
see it.
14.
All right, here's page 20, it shows up.
Hang on.
Okay, but that's something that,
Really?
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Oh, some blind.
no, I think we all have the same printed copy, printed from the same printer, so they should be there, it's just, in some places they're visible, in some places they're not.
It's not.
Right.
Look at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the document, the page number is on every page, unfortunately, so they're just printed wrong.
All right, well, I can take a crack at sort of trying to manipulate that a little bit, So page numbers, bullet points, and just trying to make sure those are consistent. The tables, which I think is probably arguably the most
I get mine
difficult.
At 14 is when mine starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is not supposed to be here. Older than this.
The maps look good.
Remember the common in
Some of, there's like 4 maps that were corrected that actually like are crystal clear. And then there were the remainder of the maps, actually, they all look pretty good. But they were slightly not quite crystal clear. But they do look pretty good.
We can also put reference on each map page that has, for, the map appendix, we could make that available on the website, so it's all a little more easily viewable. All right, so I guess I'm just trying to think about what the best way to do these edits are, and in an efficient way. So,
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, that's what, 70 pages. It would be nice to have, not have to sit down and do it all at once.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'd be most comfortable, like, spreading it out over a few days. How long do we have?
I would like to have this done by December. No, I don't know. I mean, as soon as possible, but reality is I don't think we do well with trying to get things figured out in between meetings. So I think my thought is we need to take this away and then bring it back at the next meeting. What I'm worried about is if I'm going to make the next edits, getting back 7 of these and having
Right.
to coordinate those. So I'm wondering could we do some sort of round robin editing where somebody has it for 2 days and then just pass around? Or, I mean, we've printed out a lot of copies now, or any other ideas people have would be welcome, because,
Well, I mean, if everybody looked at it and we just went page by page noting the errors, because I found in the past, the round robin in the email, it gets kind of confusing about
Yeah.
whose is what's is
Yep.
and which version we're
Okay.
on, and,
so we go through page by page next
well, it'd be
meeting.
pretty quick if you just, put your marks on, and anybody have anything on 1, no, 2,
Okay.
no, 3, no, 4, blah, blah,
Okay.
blah.
That's great. Do you know what we have on the docket for our,
Next one up, we have a BLA and site plan review combo.
okay,
2 dwelling units, 6-unit dwelling units on Railroad Square. This is the Prep Boys, the building that they built, 2-3 years ago? Down there, these are clones of that building.
okay,
So
all right.
they made it through ZBA Tuesday night.
Will you have the air conditioning on that next meeting?
Maybe won't need it.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be
hopefully.
good?
I'm
If we
willing.
need it, it will be.
I'm guessing it's gonna take a good hour for us to go through these edits, so I just wanna make sure everybody's on board, and we keep dragging you into this. But I'm happy to, you can be done with the edits if you want, since you've done a lot. So,
I'm seeing through it, till the end.
okay.
I would think there wouldn't be that many at this point. I mean, haven't we been over all this?
I think it's more some of the
Yeah.
formatting things we're gonna have to deal with, so. All right, so everyone's okay with, I would say it would be no more than a 2-hour meeting with a site plan review /
Oh, you want to do it at the
if we could.
public hearing, why not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's your meeting, man.
I don't wanna keep dragging this on as long
But yeah,
as.
no, I think that's a great idea, because it could be, I doubt if it would be 2 hours.
Yeah,
If everybody reads through it and makes their marks and just, we're mostly just comparing that we have the same notes.
yep, okay. So we will read this over the next 2 weeks, and we will come back with edits. And we'll go through them page by page. If you can't be here and you want your edits as part of it, if you could just drop them off, and then someone can sit with 2 copies and sort of filter through that way.
Good lake reading.
He's going to the lake. I don't know why he's looking at me.
Aren't you going?
For a day, but I'm not gonna be reading this.
Every day is a lake reading day for me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and just a heads up on the data book, or whatever we're gonna call it, we did get the third, the volume 2, chapter 3 has been edited by the student as well. So, Well, I have it, but I feel like we should just focus our energy on this. And then we'll just edit her edits once this process is, maybe we can distribute it after the next meeting. So, and I have been carrying around thank you notes to send to both of the students that have helped us, but I keep forgetting to bring them in. So if everyone is amenable to sending the 2 students that have, they've gone above and beyond, thank you notes for the work they've done, I think that would be a nice idea. All right. Anything else? Okay. New business. The LRPC annual meeting.
It was very nice. Down in Meredith. Got a big welcome aboard. We all had to stand up and wave. And they seem really super organized. And they have a lot of stuff because they've been doing it for so long. And one of the huge things about it was their the solid waste and their toxic disposal days. So Jesse just lit up, just like Bridget's. Because that's always been a drag. The group that we're with now, they want to host it here. And then we end up kind of overpaying for our share.
Oh, okay.
So this way, we're just trying to, and plus if we can get them, once we're in there, it would be more than just once a year here for Plymouth, because we'd be able to go to the other
Yep.
communities as well. We're opening them up.
Just so you know, those are on the 28th of July and the 4th of August for the Lakes Region Planning
Okay.
Commission towns, right? They're much better advertising, and it's a lot easier to find information about the.
Yeah, I mean, just going to their website, it was a cut above. And they seem to be doing some real good things, and they've dealt with growth issues, which I think we really need help with, as opposed to North Country where it's more on the development side,
Yep.
or encouraging development rather than how do you deal with it once it's there. So.
Good.
And I have some questions again. Okay, we had been discussing the former Bake Cafe and its current, as near as I can tell, this is a full-on change of use. Because they're incorporating a brew pub as well as a restaurant there. So I'm going to recommend them to site plan review for that.
Is that if the brewery moves to the site, or if they're just serving alcohol that makes it
Well,
different?
it's a brew pub versus a restaurant. So they're kind of pushing their product and giving you hamburger on the side. I'm going to talk a little bit more with the owner and find out exactly
Okay.
what he's planning. I mean, at this point, they're just trying to find out how much available space they have. So,
So it'd be upstairs and down, or is it?
well, I think Keith's is going to be open until, I mean, not hearing anything else from the owner,
Okay.
at least until his lease runs out. And that may become part and parcel. It might be the growler station, who knows?
Yep.
But we'll have a better idea of that once I speak to him a little bit more.
But mostly it'll be in the upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, what he'd really like to do is put a roof deck on. Outdoor seating seems to be the thing. So,
Yep.
it's nice and flat up there, though you go into the building and it's an old peaked roof. And there's charred sheathing that you can see. And somebody said, oh yeah, that was from the fire in '52. Wow. So evidently they just sistered everything up and put a false ceiling under it and carried on. But they want to perhaps incorporate some of the charred look into, because, it's that nice alligatoring that you see.
Yep.
Or,
I don't know.
So does brew pub go under bar, tavern, nightclub?
No, because there's a restaurant component for it.
Okay.
And that's what he would be going for, was food and the drink. I guess, I think that's the only way to do it in this state. Let's see.
But the thought is that it's a departure enough from selling bagels and muffins after 11 a.m. that it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Because even though there's so much similarities, because there's food involved, right? But perhaps when Bake came in, though they came in kind of under the auspices of being a bakery, it was less of a bakery than the Main Street Bakery or Anderson's was.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, I think we just got to call it and say, let's find out what we're dealing with
Yep.
here, because it is a different use.
Yep.
Um,
I think
and-
it's also, we're dealing with a bit of an evolution of use too,
Yes,
and so at some
yes.
point it has to trigger a little differently. Also, the timing of use. So instead of something that's closed by dinner time, it's something that's gonna open in the evening, and
Yes.
so.
I think we already covered that brewing is a manufacturer of goods sold on this, so they're going to have to see ZBA for that. It's a special exception use.
Assuming they're brewing on site and
Yes,
not in the
yes.
storage units.
And that led to the question of, for future amendments, should we allow bakeries and brewers as a permitted use in the VC? Or keep it a special exception use? That's something for amendment season.
I would say yes, we allow it without a special exception. That does seem strange.
We have two print shops that are grandfathered, and it's not allowed use in the Village Commercial District. So, I don't know what the vision was for the downtown, but the downtown we have is not anything like it's in the zoning ordinance, because, there are these things that are pretty much normal uses in any other community, seem to be, for some reason, I don't understand why they singled out printing, and, I mean, they're specifically mentioned as far as the types of manufactured things, and it says bakeries and print shops.
When were those created?
Well, Clifford Nickel had been here when I moved in 1985.
It started 61.
Okay. So you kind of wonder if maybe because the initial printer and the initial baker were involved in town politics, that it might have been a competitive thing. I don't know, but it kind of looks that way to
Yeah.
me.
Huh.
But, that's kind of by the boards now.
Yeah. So I think just looking at on the list probably should be looking at the village commercial district and what are the permitted uses there.
Yeah,
So,
I think.
and
that-
whether or
that would
not
be
it's
part of it to
ridiculous or
see.
not.
Yeah, and like you said, things have changed quite a bit from back in the day, and there are these new uses that we don't really have a handle on.
And
Or-
now we have no bakery in downtown
We have no
Plymouth,
bakery,
and it'd be hard for them to put one in.
and I would certainly love to see one in.
I think a lot of people would.
Yeah. A lot of people miss Anderson's. Saturday when the school's out, all the teachers, they hit there first before they go off and do the roofing stuff. They're always waiting on the common,
But yeah, they become
It
common
fosters that
critics.
kind of downtown, and that's what we're going for, I think, is
Sense of
come to
community.
downtown
Yep.
and hang out for a while.
Yep. No, I used to go there every Sunday with my dad when I was a kid.
Okay. So, on to this. Okay, the planning board, would you consider a joint meeting to discuss zoning amendments with the ZBA?
I think that's a great idea.
Can we just request that maybe once the master plan?
Oh,
I feel
yes.
like we've got enough on our plate right now.
Yeah.
But I think we need to start thinking about the zoning, what we want to sort of prioritize for the zoning
Right.
starting in September.
And they can
because-
give input in what they've been seeing lately.
Yeah,
Certainly. And it's legal for us to hold work sessions with them. I thought it was restricted purely to public hearings, but we can. The danger being talking about anything that may come before the board in the future. So we'd have to be pretty general in what
Okay.
we say. This came out of a discussion about the student housing on Toby Road.
okay.
So if it was limited to that, none of us could play when it came time to deal with it. So
When does the
But-
ZBA meet? What,
they meet the first Tuesday of every month.
first Tuesday, okay.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about timing wise, if we want to say, we'll come to their meeting or they'll come to our meeting.
It'd probably be easier to hold it at one of our work sessions because we have
That's what-
more
yeah.
scheduled meetings.
Okay,
and they don't really have work sessions.
Okay.
So what happens is you come, you each open a meeting, and then you vote as to who's going to run the joint meeting.
Okay.
If it was a public hearing, it would default to the planning chairman.
Okay.
So there's that.
I wonder if tentatively we aim for like our work session in, I'm gonna say October, October, is that?
Well, the amendment season's coming up pretty fast.
Okay, so September.
Sooner.
Yeah. August feels too soon. So tentatively, oh, that might not work for me. Maybe I won't be here, but
When won't you be here, in September?
first week of September.
And certainly, we could schedule another work session that was for both boards.
Yep.
You don't have to adhere to either calendar.
Okay. But I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good. That's all I had, Madam Chair.
Okay, you guys want to tell us about the workshop or the thing that you went to?
Yeah. Well, I was really glad I went. I found it to be very helpful. And probably we ought to pass along or do something with this nice handout that he had. It was, what was his name? Ben Olson, town planner from Lancaster. A couple of things that stood out to me was the notion that really the work begins once the master plan's done, because it's an issue of lining up the zoning regulations with the master plan now. And he mentioned that form-based regulations, is that the right term, Chris, do you remember? Instead of land use form, which makes a lot of sense to me, especially in the downtown area, because if you're looking at maintaining the character of the downtown, the uses are constantly changing, but what seems like a nice idea is maintaining the form. So to think about some consideration for regulations about form in addition to or instead of use, I don't know how that would work, but that seemed like a good idea to me. And what else? Another idea that he mentioned was using student representatives who sit as alternates, which that's a great way to get kids involved in their local. I don't know if the high school would entertain having that as a credit-bearing self-study activity. Also, a little younger perspective, they probably would know Froyo and know more about the,
You have to be a registered
Yeah.
voter, though.
oh,
Oh, that's,
okay.
yeah, no. I'm not certain.
I know you have to be a
Well,
citizen.
You can still be a registered voter and be in the high school too, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean,
If you happen to be
18, but that might be
18.
the lower cutoff.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I mean, we could if the board felt that they wanted student interns.
Or
we could-
a
we could
non-voting.
Form, yeah, just, to come and.
And I think Lancaster is actually doing that, right?
I think so. I think so. Another thing, the collaboration across boards. It doesn't seem like we're all like these little entities doing our own individual things, and there doesn't seem to be much opportunity for collaboration and co-planning. And then, you look at the chapter 3, what's the section be called?
The implementation.
The implementation, thank you. And that has collaboration on all these different activities, but we don't seem to really have a format for that. So I wonder about that. And then the other thing that Ben talked about was consideration of having viewing applications for completeness in one meeting and approval in a separate meeting that just sort of, I sometimes feel like it's so quick a process that we could be a little more thorough or thoughtful than there's time for in a single meeting. Maybe that's just me being new. I don't know.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
We tend to, in the other planning boards, that not to interrupt, but just to comment on this, if you see other planning boards in action, they will take a much slower process. We tend to steamroll them right through. The state planner handbook, which everyone should have everyone get in their binders. Do we still pass that out, the planner handbook?
I think so.
I'm not,
I can make copies of it.
Yeah.
not sure I have a planner handbook, but I have the,
Rules of procedure.
right, I have that.
That's different, so.
Okay.
It's a handbook done by Office of State Planning, which is now the Office of Strategic Initiatives.
I think actually it's on this thumb drive.
Oh, yeah.
And that is
Do you
a,
already have?
I probably have a hard copy, but I would love to have an electronic copy.
Let the record state the thumb drive was passed.
but I think it actually does state in that planner handbook too, encourages planning boards to take their time with applications, so.
That was one thing that he really stressed, was you don't have to rush through this process.
Do they have administrative staff in his?
I don't know if that came up, but there was some discussion around the different compositions of boards across the state, and many towns apparently have a hard time staffing a board to even have a quorum.
Right.
So my guess would be that many of them also don't have administrative staff.
Right.
So, and in fact, there was someone there from Wentworth, and they don't even have a planning board. So, it seems to vary quite a bit. One thing that he mentioned was most town attorneys strongly recommend against recording meetings. And if you do, that there is a strict protocol for how you manage taking the notes and disposing of the recordings in a timely way.
Timely?
Well, I'm reading, most town attorneys strongly recommend against recording meetings. However, if they do, the board or committee should have a written policy and its rules of procedures that address how long the tapes will be kept, how and where they will be kept, and how copies of the tapes shall be made available to the public.
I'm curious if that's different, because what we have going on is different than someone holding a tape recorder
Yeah.
and recording it. So I'm wondering, I'd be curious to see what this is for public consumption.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
intentionally for public consumption, where the audio recordings, I think that is something in a bit of a gray area, so.
We tend to keep the current rotation till the next meeting. It's mostly to engage the public. Everything that we do administratively and statutorily has to do with written records. So that's why we have the NODs that need to be signed, the minutes are out by certain dates. As long as we hit those guidelines and we don't shift to electronic, that's just a bonus that we offer to the citizenry. And it also makes doing the minutes a lot easier to the staff, even though they have to sit through the entire meeting, but they can go back and see rather than, oftentimes I'll be taking notes and get involved and I'll forget, pertinent details, but you'll pick them up on that.
That's interesting. I'd be curious to learn more about that.
That kind of struck me when he said that, because it seemed like very Nixonian advice, because he basically said to get rid of the tapes because they can come back and haunt you later.
Anybody did add, unless if there's something that's potentially contentious, you want to hang on to
Yes.
it, which is kind of contradictory. And
It's a
the other
two-edged sword.
contradiction was the notion of transparency, that, the board should just be as transparent as possible.
I think there'd be a loud kind of outcry if we wanted to curtail that,
Yeah.
because, it's on PBTV, they're kept in archives that go back years.
It's raw, it's gripping.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
A lot of
They
people from
watch it
other
all the
communities
time.
watch these meetings.
Yeah. I'm just saying, that's what was
Yeah, that was
discussed.
weird.
It's, it was just a question to bring back.
Yeah, every time I watch an episode, my eyes light up.
While eating froyo?
And regional impact was another thing that was new to me, and inviting abutting communities if there's potential for regional impact.
Did they talk about the statute?
Do you mean RSA 3645?
If you feel, not that you have determined, but if you feel it might be of interest, you have to notify them, which I find to be a ridiculous standard. Because it was brought up in regards to one of our large buildings here. You know, should that be put out to everybody else? And I thought, well, no, why would it? It makes absolutely no sense. We received no notification at all for Groton Wind, none.
So,
There's no penalty if you don't notify.
but that's still being kicked around as far as like the need perhaps to like, you know, have an impact on viewscape, whether an abutting community has something to.
But viewscape,
Right.
sure, I mean, it's mostly around cell towers at this point.
I mean, there is,
Right,
but there is
window.
legal
Yes.
requirement with cell towers to abut, what is it, within a 20-mile
Exactly.
radius?
But it's like anything within 1,000 feet of a town border, or if they share transportation, you know, like the, you know, anything along Route 3 could be a development of regional impact to any town that touches it. You know, that's what I mean. It's a really weird statute.
So in the interest of transparency, if you were to provide notice, and in fact, I'm just looking back at my notes here, and what was recommended was that the board take a vote on the question of regional impact and to be recorded. And what is the, they would come perhaps and state their concerns, but we would still be obliged to uphold the regulations, and it would just simply be a courtesy.
Yeah.
It's all non-binding.
So it seems like there would be no problem with doing it, but might be viewed as a nice invitation to have the opportunity.
So here I am presenting my subdivision to you, and Bonnie says, you know, this might have regional impact. That freezes it right there for me, because I can't do anything further until you notify the abutting towns. All you gotta do is bring it up, and you have to do it.
Is that true if you were to,
Any land use board, so it could come from the ZBA, come from the planning board, probably from the Conservation Commission, because that can be viewed as a land use board.
So
It doesn't say anything with statutory authority, it just says land use board.
it's something we could consider putting in our site plan review as one of those extra questions, like, is this gonna have regional impact? And if so, then we have to notify other towns.
the Tenny Mountain project, for example, would that be considered to have a regional impact?
And what does impact mean? Is it a positive impact, a negative impact, any
Right.
impact?
There's no road that goes through Tenny Mountain that gets to any other town. So, but they all share Route 3A. So does that mean that it falls under that?
But they do.
And again, if there's
they do
no-
border
Increase
crossing.
traffic.
If there's
that
no
kind of stuff.
penalty for not notifying them, why spend the postage? You know, because we could have had a lot to say about the wind farms. And we had nothing. We were not invited to the
But
party.
that's why maybe we should do it, because it would have been nice if,
They could have
Groton
blown
didn't-
us off, you know, nicely too, you know, but
well,
at
and
least we'd have
even,
a say.
and here's the reason, you know, what, my thought is this: if someone had a reasonable objection that we were overlooking because we didn't live in that town, and we could do some kind of compromise that could mitigate some of that, so everybody was a lot happier than they otherwise would have been. I think in a situation like that, I think that's important to let other towns know. I would certainly want that courtesy, but I don't think every subdivision, I mean, I think like a major project that, like a wind tower farm, or, you know, I mean, that makes sense.
But, yeah, but that, there isn't the threshold for that. It's not.
I think it could end up being a slippery slope.
Well,
You know, it could be
maybe,
good in this case, and then in this case, you could say, oh my God, we shouldn't have done it because now we're in this mess here.
maybe regional impact needs to be defined, or maybe it is defined somewhere better than
What I'll do is,
I-
I kind of let off the discussion in Plan Link about it and got some interesting stuff. I'll send you what they sent me on that, the discussion there. And it was, I mean, I understand how it works, but everybody's fighting for their own peace these days, and it's just one more, it's forcing kumbaya where it isn't really necessary, in my book. You know, just to, okay, yeah, we hear your concerns. Next, you know?
Yeah.
But what if their
It's
concerns?
a waste of time.
What if their
that's-
concerns were legitimate and we could do something about that? And this,
Right.
you know, so whenever we're making an exemption to our zoning rules or our subdivision rules, or current use rules, you know, it always, to me, comes down to neighbors.
Mhm.
Because you can ruin somebody's life, you know, like, and believe me, it happened to my family, you know, and all of a sudden this noise invading your home, it seems like, oh, it's just, you can't ignore it. And, you know, I think if someone had a legitimate reason to be nervous about something, and you could get ahead of the curve and do something about that.
Yeah, but these are town to town. These aren't individuals.
No, I know, but so one step further than that is your town, you know, those are neighbors too, and I think it's good to kind of, I mean, why make someone else's life miserable? I mean, I think that should be one of our jobs, is to make sure that,
But if there's no opportunity to stop it, other than just having yourself heard, you know, what's the point?
well, people like to be heard.
I was really, really upset with the way that the wind towers were handled. You may have figured this out. And I'm saying, if there's no penalty for it and nobody seems to care beyond their borders, why should we be the ones carrying everybody's water again?
I guess
We're the
I,
hub for all the exempts. 50% of our property is non-taxable.
right, and I get the concern with the wind farm. I think that, but trying to think about that from right now, instead of, you know, that's an issue, it is Groton. And I, you know, setting the wind farm aside, you know, if we're gonna start thinking about, if we want our communities to start, neighboring communities to think about impacts to us, then we need to reciprocate, and someone's gotta start. And we can't just be like, well, they're not gonna
Right.
notify us, so we're not gonna notify them. I think we've gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, it's just a matter of sending a
Yeah.
letter.
And I don't think that we necessarily know what this looks like, but, I mean, the town of Plymouth is a regional hub for all of our surrounding communities. So, I mean, I think a lot of what we might be dealing with is notify, you know, get more support in for certain projects. Who knows what's gonna happen, but, I mean, really, we might, as a board, it might give us the opportunity to think just beyond our own boundaries, I think, and we might just have, you know, longer hearings with specific projects, so,
and I think it would be rare, don't you? Wouldn't it, it would be pretty rare that something would meet the criteria of,
so, I mean, just think about, like, what if the town of Lincoln was gonna put in a tannery or something, you know? There, you know, we had no, I mean, if we had the ability to, you know, we're concerned about our water quality downstream, it just gives us the opportunity to think much more broadly about how our, you know, our impacts to the environment don't really pay attention to our town boundaries, so.
The only problem, though, is like multiple towns have multiple, you know, zoning laws
Right.
and regulations, so, you know, if the tannery is perfectly fine in Lincoln, you know, it'd be kind of hard, we'd be hard pressed to.
Plus, there's a lot more regulations about what can and can't go into a river now than when the
Yeah.
Well, that was, I mean, that was just an example, but
No, I get
say we were trying to put in a tannery, and Franklin was really concerned about how that was gonna impact their water quality, and members of the Franklin community came to us to say, have you thought about X, Y, and Z as a way of mitigating the impacts to the Pemmy River, which is then gonna impact our community, and that might give us as a planning board an opportunity to be proactive.
That's a true regional impact.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with it is there's no standard of what a regional impact is. And the fact that, it's almost, they expect you to act like the definition of pornography. You know it when you see it, so you should be able to do it. Well, it's even obvious just from the conversation we're having here that everybody sees what that regional impact is different, and multiply that by towns. So without a standard, and we know cell towers are, we know something like the wind towers are. The college notified us when they went up to put up Merrill Place. Of course,
That one wouldn't matter, though.
no. Or any of the stuff at Allwell or the ice arena. I don't know that they actually notified us about that.
Well, yeah, I don't think that, I mean, the Plymouth,
Yeah,
the
that's
university, I
whole
think that's
Plymouth
just.
Yeah, but that's,
Regional.
suddenly
Yeah,
it's
whatever, yeah.
crossing the river, so it does have an effect.
I mean, it does have an effect on Plymouth, but the university has no legal.
Need or authority, and
They
they don't have,
they don't have to pay attention to any of our
I know
regulations, so
that.
it doesn't necessarily matter,
I know
so.
that.
But it would be
Believe-
nice if they did. It would
Right.
be nice if
It
they
would be
did, and they'd have a
wonderful if
lot
they did, Chris.
fewer enemies in town.
Right.
Yeah.
And people would support, I mean, it's hard to like the university, despite all the good things they do for this town, when they treat the residents of this town so dismissively, not poorly, but dismissively, And, I mean, I love having the university here, that's why I live in this town, but I think it would be nice if they communicated better. I
We used
think.
to have a rep that would come to our meetings that I haven't seen here in maybe a year and a half.
yeah, he's gone on. Well, actually, we had a couple reps that kind of transitioned out, but.
I think maybe we need to move on from this point, but I think what seems like a good idea to take from this, that if we think there is a regional impact to a project coming up, I think it's worth mentioning and considering, and deciding if that's something that would be helpful for us to get input from our surrounding communities, so. But I think the other thing I'm hearing is we proceed with caution and be careful with it, so. Yeah. Frank, I saw you were raising your hand. Did you have a comment that would add to this discussion or prolong it? Or both?
On this most recent discussion, there's two other elements that was regional, was public utilities, when Bridgewater Power Plant went in, and that's right next to our boundary line. And I have in a hill in which I can hear them talking on lunch break, so that it is a consideration of impact. The other element is public utilities and public transportation systems have regional impacts. So the purpose of a professional courtesy between our towns is when somebody is putting something in that has a large draw of traffic, it helps us to have a discussion on our mitigation of public safety, either pedestrians or vehicle traffic in our flow, as much as it would be to another town if we were putting something with a high flow development out to 3A or north to Campton. This allows the planning and a discussion about how this would be addressed or mitigated. So that is one of the values of acknowledging a regional, and I think a lot of the agencies that deal specifically with utilities and or transportation, it is a regional impact, and that's a line item you have to address when you're establishing that. Back to some of the previous discussion about our Main Street and Village Commercial.
Can we hold
Zone.
on to that while we move through the rest of this, and I'll give you a
Okay.
chance to, I'll open up the public at the end of this, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. I don't want to backtrack while we've got some forward
Yeah.
motion.
That's all I have on
Okay.
my notes.
Anything from you?
Just that that handout, I think, would be worth, mine's less marked up.
Yeah,
I thought I
mine's
had it
pretty
here, but I
marked
could,
up.
so maybe I could even present it to the chair, and you could see if
me,
it's
yeah.
something that you would like to,
Yeah, I think that'd be great if you would.
yeah, I thought it was very useful, particularly for people new on, on the planning board. I thought it was very well organized, so.
Yeah.
And one last thing, I think the amount of discussion amongst, how many people were there?
Oh, maybe 15, 20, 15 to 20.
Yeah, somewhere in there, that'd be my guess. Everybody had questions and shared, it was a great opportunity for people to talk and about what happened in their town versus other towns. It was.
In a non-public meeting where you can ask anything.
Yes.
That was really nice.
Okay. Yeah, if you could bring that in.
I've been searching for it. I must have left it somewhere because I meant to bring it in. Mine's not as marked up as Bridget's, so.
The other thing I went to was this creative placemaking New Hampshire talk at the Courier Museum, which was really interesting, and just talking about facilitating arts and culture as a way of community building, which I think is a really beautiful idea. That, you're talking about everybody taking care of their own, and that's the way life seems to be going, and this is a way of facilitating more community through arts and culture. I think about our common. It's used a lot, but it's really not used a lot.
Right.
And it would be nice to think about how to maximize the use of public space that would be, make everyone in the community feel valued. Kumbaya.
Yeah.
I'm an idealist.
Yeah.
No, it works, but and we pretty much been relying on the university for that since they have such great programs, and, everything out of Silver.
It's not for everybody, though.
No. And then
It's
we have
only if
the-
you can afford the $70 for 2 tickets to go
Music
to.
festival that happens on the streets, that's always another one.
We do have a lot,
We need
and
more.
it's great. We could use more
Yeah.
and different.
I think
And
there's
I've been
room for more,
encouraging-
too.
There's room for more.
Commercial applicants to gussy up their buildings with like sculpture or things like that. Some
Public
kind of
art.
Public art.
Yep, we have very little public art here,
They're
and it
looking
doesn't
do
have to
some down at the
be
ECP.
expensive. Steve sent me some, Steve Whitman sent me some resources related to this idea that I'm looking at, and one of the main points was that it does not have to be, it doesn't require a big monetary investment to implement some of these ideas. That's it.
Awesome. Since this is our work session, not our public hearing, I think this is when maybe it's a good time to bring up other boards that we're on, if there's any updates. I did it last meeting, so maybe there's not that much changing, but I think it's more appropriate in our work session. So if we can just plan on a monthly catch-up from, we've got ZBA, we've got Conservation Commission, and Select Board. So if there are any updates that are pertinent to share with the group, then
Just that trail work, which if anyone has been out on Walter Newton to look at those relocations, they're pretty impressive. You've been out there.
Yeah, I saw 4 owls out there last weekend. It's amazing.
I had a moment with an owl a couple weeks ago out there.
Maybe the same owls.
It had a mouse in its mouth, and we were like as far away from the podium. He like swooped down, landed, and we sort of looked at each other, and we're like,
I'm trying to give it to you.
yeah. So neat.
Yeah.
All right, the select board, not really, we haven't had a meeting in several weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, the next one's going to be the 9th.
okay. All right. All right. Anything else from the board, unfinished or other business? Frank.
Thank you. On the village commercial zone, 2 things. I think one of the values of a site plan review is, irrespective of the fact our whole land use zoning ordinance was established in '61 and may have been framed on the uses either through competitive mindset or it was a brand-new concept of trying to establish different uses within a small area. Not moving, we've moved on now and we've got a little more experience in it. I think one benefit is all of our businesses are in main village commercial zone, a very restrictive area. And one effect that it does have is parking. And your on-site employee parking is a big issue. We have approximately 115 businesses on Main Street. That's 330 cars that come to work, no customers, and there's only 270 spaces. So obviously, someone's going to be disappointed, or they end up in the customer parking area. The other thing is our types of businesses historically on the village commercial zone are internal business. So you have external business like a used car lot or a farm and things like that that have their process outside. Most everything on Main Streets is accomplished inside. But the other issue besides parking is the safety and the movement of a volume of people in and amongst a very confined area. The other thing I think we should consider in the coming year is that the village commercial zone boundary was established in 1961 and is seriously outdated, and I'll give you some examples. The Silver Hall is in the village commercial zone, and obviously it should be in the civic institution. Green Street is agricultural zone. So when you're trying to actually do economic development, redevelopment on Main Street, and trying to do a tax incentive financing in TIF district, you're restricted, and it didn't work, and that's why we never could follow through on it, because the value of the elements that are in the area, so-called of the downtown area versus the village commercial zone, the values don't add up and reflect the current actual commercial business environment. So I think that's something that needs to be on the agenda for a reviewing of our actual village commercial zone district.
It's on the list. I believe it is. That is already on the list.
Okay.
So, yeah. So make sure you come to that hearing.
All right,
Is that it?
that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for letting me stop you previously while we continued with our business.
I think we're done.
She was looking
Make
at
a
you.
motion to go out and get warmed up. I'm freezing.
All right. All those in favor of going out to roast?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting is over.